Do you wake up every day pumped to work on your business? You sit down at your computer, you have a list a mile long of things to do for your business, but you have no idea if they are actually moving the needle forward or if they're just helping you feel like you got quote unquote something accomplished today. When I first started my business, I remember thinking multiple times, well, now what? So I would go to a Facebook page, ask my questions, or I would search Google only to get 20 different answers. Being who I am, I would try to do them all. But they were not moving my business forward. They were just stressing me out. I have decided to create a membership for other pro organizers that can be like a real estate office. We all have our own business, but we can meet at the office for support, guidance, and inspiration. I created this membership because it's what I wish I would have had when I was first starting my business. It's everything that I've ever wanted out of a coaching program and membership. In the Pro Organizers coaching community, you get bi-weekly group coaching, monthly workshops, and discounts on my one-on-one coaching program. So go to proorganizers.community or go to proorganizerscoach.com/community to find out more. And all of the links will be in the show notes below. Now let's do this thing. You are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm Samantha Brown, a professional organizer and business coach. In this podcast, you will learn how to start and scale the organizing business of your dreams. So let's jump in. Welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. On today's episode, I have a professional organizer that has been in business for about a year. Her name is Kristen Fielder. She has started Level Up Organizing, and that is on Facebook under groups. It's Level Up Organizing. She is on TikTok, and then she's also on Instagram. So go check her out. You will find all of the links in the show notes below. Thank you, Kristen, for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
First, I wanted to know just a little bit about you, when you got started, how you even found out professional organizing was a thing.
Sure. So I've been in the corporate world ever since I graduated college in 2006. I was always in the professional world as an executive assistant, and I kind of just got over that phase of my life, and organizing has always been in my blood. It's something that has really come naturally to me and something that calms me down when the world is chaotic, right? So I took an idea. I started doing it a little bit on the side at nights and on weekends, even though I was working full time and had children. Made it a profession about a year ago. So I've been able to be pretty successful within the last year. I've had lots of clients. I could probably write a book, right? Can't we all in the professional organizing world? We all have all kinds of stories, but it's really fun and challenging. And every day is different, which I needed a different speed. And that's why I made the choice to make this big leap.
What is something that you know now that just a year ago you wish you would have known?
That's a really great question. I think that I did not realize the emotional side of organizing and decluttering. There's a lot of history and memories that go with objects that tend to hold us back from purging, but not all items need to be purged, but not all items need to be kept either. So kind of coaching your client, depending on the situation, and guiding them through the process can be tiring, but at the end, it's very rewarding.
Completely agree that is not talked about enough, where in the industry and when people are teaching you to become a professional organizer, you can be taught the business stuff. You can be taught how to actually like pull everything out of a closet, sort, keep all of that. But that emotional aspect, like you have to be half counselor, half organizer.
Exactly. I definitely agree with that. And it's very emotional for the client. I tend to only do the maximum of 4 hours because I also, bring home that emotional, that all the things that are going through your brain. It is a big puzzle for us, right? They're relying on us to figure out how to make it all work and make it look pretty, make it look functional. So it's very rewarding, but I also need a couple of days off after I do maybe an 8-hour session.
Yes.
So it's great for both of us. And it's fun to see how they feel a couple days later or a week later, or a month later. I always try to check in and see how it's going. And that's all on the other side of the business where it's maintaining, right? And like teaching them how to maintain it, because it's like working out. Can't work out one day and think you're going to run a marathon. It's an everyday process to make sure that you are keeping up with it. And I think that that's a challenge that many clients may experience. So trying to coach them through that, whether it's phone call or email or text.
Also giving them the heads up on the front end, like we were just talking about, of making sure they know, look, this is a process. If it doesn't work for you, I'll come back in a few weeks or a month. We'll tweak it. We'll figure out what does work for you. But it is a process. It's not just a one and done, and it's going to work for them forever. Plus, I try to coach my clients about, like the one in, one out rule. Like once we get this decluttered and everything fits, if you go to buy a new shirt, make sure you're willing to release a shirt to put it in its place, or before you know it, you're going to be right back where you were to start with. A lot of the clients seem to be very open to it. And then the other one that seems to work well for me, and I don't know if it does for you or not, is telling them to turn their hangers backwards. So then after the end of the season, they are able to look at their closet and be like, oh, well, all of these hangers that are still turned backwards, I didn't wear them at all this fall or winter, or whatever season they're in.
Yeah, so that's good advice to give to me, right? So everyone thinks that they can come to an organizer house and think it's going to be perfect. I don't want to show you my home half the time because I'm putting all my effort onto everyone else. But the hanger idea is a great idea. I love that. And my husband likes to buy shoes. So I always say one in, one out, right? So it doesn't really qualify for me, right? But it qualifies for my husband. So that's really great feedback that a client can wrap their head around.
Yeah. Yeah. And keeping it very simple for them. Like we may be stressed out and have no idea what we're doing half the time, but as long as they think we know what we're doing, and the answer always comes, it just really is a process for us of figuring out what those answers are for them. But as long as they're calm and they feel like we know what we're doing, that's all that matters. Here's a good question. What is a commonly held belief about being a professional organizer that you find yourself disagreeing with?
So I also love this question. I even put some thought into this question because I think there's two things I would like to address, right? So cleaning and organizing are two completely different things. So both achieve different goals. Cleaning includes mopping and sweeping, doing laundry, dishes, everyday things. Organizing contains decisions on what to keep, what to donate, deciding how to utilize and store them, creating systems for us to have a simple daily life. Both can be achieved, but do not require the same time frames, skills, and outcomes. So that's one of those things. They do go hand in hand, but they are two different things, right? Mm-hmm. Also, we watch a lot of those shows that show us how amazing things can look at the end of 2 hours. That's not reality. So the reality is I try to say up front, this is a process. It's going to be functional. It's not going to be pretty, right? There are stages to making it pretty, and we can do that. I just try to make things functional along with being pretty. That's my main goal, right? Everyday life. There's a drop zone where you come and you put all your stuff down. Let's put hooks there. Let's put whatever, like a bench that opens up so you can put all your things inside that hide things like that, right? So teaching our clients and people that we are come in contact with that there are ways to do that easily and make it look pretty.
I completely agree. And, I get that for TV or for Pinterest, it's got to be like Pinterest pretty. And for TV, it's got to be done in 30-minute time frame. But the backside of that is that on TV, they have like 20 people coming in and making it look that way. We are one woman shows most of the time. And so we can only do what we can do. And a lot of the times the clients completely understand. But it's very important to set their expectations at the beginning of the process of them working with us, because if we don't, then somebody's going to get disappointed somewhere along the way because of their beliefs in their head before we even got started.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And also budget, right? So if you're on TV, you have $1 billion budget, but at the end of the day, we have a $50 budget. with very high taste. So trying to maneuver around those challenges can be challenging. Trying to come up with ways to repurpose things, try to find out things that maybe that's not functional there, but it's functional over here. So that's really where I think our uniqueness in our job comes into play. They need that guidance to do that. They may not see the full picture where we can walk in and go, this could go here, this can be moved. We don't really need that. That's not space being used, and show them that there is a way to use the things that they already have, just moving them around to make them more purposeful.
Yeah. And the majority of my clients, when they first call and we do like the phone call and the consultation, they always ask, like, what do I need to buy for you to come back? And I'm like, nothing. Like, I need you to buy zero, because until we get in there and until we declutter it and until we look at what is even maybe going to go back into that space, we don't know what we need until we get there. Once we get to a place where we need those things, then absolutely I will help you figure out, ones that look good and that fit the space perfectly and that will work for what you're wanting to achieve. But if we buy the stuff first and then try to make it fit, it never fits the way that it could if we waited to purchase those products.
Right. And it just gives them one more task that they have to do in returning product, or then it sits there and creates clutter. So I definitely agree with going in, assessing the situation, and then making executive decisions on what could be purchased when and when I can come back, or if they want to do it on their own.
Awesome. Yeah. So real quick, as you and I were talking about before we started recording, was in the podcast space, you are taught a lot about your elevator pitch, right? Like, what is it that you say to someone within the space of an elevator ride when someone asks you, what do you do? And of course, for us, we know that when they say, what do you do? We normally say, well, I'm a professional organizer. Then comes the question, well, what is that? Or what does that mean? And so I thought it would be fun to ask you what your elevator pitch is when someone asks you what you do.
Yeah, I think it changes every time a little bit depending on who you're talking to and the situation. How many floors are you going in your elevator speech, right? So do I have one floor? Do I have 10? So it just depends. So I usually just say, I've created my own business called Love Up Organizing. I'm in Antioch, Illinois, and my whole focus is to declutter and organize spaces within a home or a business that would streamline everyday life. So it's a really simple sentence that really is impactful. You can always probably play around with that depending, like I said, who you're talking to, but it not only addresses what we do, it addresses where we do it. So home or business, and how it affects your life.
Like you just said, what you do, how you do it, where. Like for me, whenever people ask me, what is it that you do? Used to, my whole elevator pitch when I was overthinking it in the beginning was like, I'm a professional organizer. I help bring peace into your home. And it's like, well, what does that mean? That can be on the inside of me and my goal for that person. But when you tell people that, they just give you this blank stare of like, okay, nice to meet you, And for me in my area, I've realized as long as I say the word declutter. And so I've gotten to where when people ask me, what do you do? I just go straight for the kill. And I'm like, I help people declutter their homes. Sometimes just keeping it simple and, getting straight to the point, and it being a pain point word for them that they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm in that pain. I need that service. Do you have a business card?
Yes, exactly. I was in the parade for the 4th of July here in our small town, and I didn't realize how impactful it was until I started getting a little bit of feedback, right? People have to sit on it a little bit, and they're like, oh, I saw you from the parade. You declutter. So that must be a really big focus for many people, because everyone has clutter somewhere, somehow. Some space is bothering them. So you're right. I think declutter is a big word. Organizing isn't as impactful, but I think once you are at a session, then they truly understand what you do.
Yeah. I know everyone's got a different opinion on the consultation. Do you do a free consultation?
Yeah. So I usually charge a fee to do a consultation. And then if you do book, then that consultation is free. And then I try to go to everyone's house depending on how far away they are or how busy schedules are with them or myself. So I do a lot of photos. I have to look at photos, and I really dig down deep into those photos. Like, what exactly do I need? How would I move that? What would I do? And that gives me some sort of, background of like what I'm walking into if I can't physically get there. So that's worked really well. I also use the clutter bug quiz, right? The 4 insects that many of you may know or not know, but that definitely is helpful for me because how I organize is different than how someone else may organize. And I want to make sure I'm fulfilling their needs.
Yeah, that's a good tip of like, even though it's not our quiz, it's cast from Clutterbugs quiz, but still being able to use it for your clients to give you an idea of how they like to have things organized and what the
Right.
final product should look like. So I've always done a free consultation.
I just use that as a free if they do book. So I still am getting paid for the session, even if they already had a consultation. So that's kind of how I'm working it. And it seems to be working fairly well. Plus,
Yeah.
they see the amount for the consultation and they don't really want to be stuck with that bill per se without having something done. So I think it just kind of works for the community that I'm in.
Oh, so you don't bill for the consultation until they decide if they're doing a session or not.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good idea of sending your contract ahead of time to them so they can be looking over it. Where I normally wait for the consultation, I go over the contract with them line by line. And so that's a thought too of, sending it ahead of time so they can be looking over it. And then that way, if they have any questions.
Right. And sometimes a consultation may lead into a session. So I already want to have all of my questions already answered and done before I even go in because we might even start that day.
Oh, yeah. I don't ever start that day. I always book a consultation in around like my already existing schedule. And then we set up from there the day for the first session. Point being for you that's listening is you can make it your own, whatever you feel like works for you. A lot of times when you're first getting started, go with your gut, try it for a little bit. If it doesn't work, it's your business to tweak. So then tweak it, figure out what is working. You can always change it and it can always be an ever evolving thing like it is anyways. So when you're first starting, definitely sometimes it's better to just jump and then kind of figure it out as you're going.
Definitely agree with you on that.
A couple more questions real quick. One is, what is your favorite type of session and why? Now, I don't know if you do different types of sessions, but when I say different type, I mean a decluttering or an actual organizing just with bins or, maybe a downsizing, or maybe you've had a speaking engagement or a special project you've done that's been your favorite. Like, I was just kind of curious if you can think of your favorite session, what maybe it would have been.
I wrote some answers down, but I'm going to change it. So I really, for some reason, love doing garages. I don't know why. I just do. And that's not really something that I thought I would like, but I do because the door's open and there's a breeze and you're not in someone's home particularly. I mean, I love being inside people's homes too, but for some reason, I just like that because that is an area most of the time that we forget that needs to be decluttered, right? We're like living room, kitchen, bedroom, kids' room. But garage, we're like parking our car. We have all of our tools. We have bikes. So many things that falls to the wayside because we're in our homes and not in our garages. So I don't know why I like just playing around with tools and I find it very fun and exciting. And for some reason, it's one of my favorite things. I also like basements too. So a nice, pretty pantry is always fun. Don't get me wrong, the labels and the clear bins, but I don't know why I love the garages and the basements the most. And there are sessions where my clients will say, here, go, see you later. I got to go run some errands. Sometimes I like that, but a lot of times I like working with the client. They tell you a lot about their lives and a lot about this picture is from this place with this person. And there's a lot of history behind a lot of the people that you meet. So it's really fun to be able to work with different kinds of people all the time.
Yeah. I will say though, I think you're the first person I've spoken with that garages and basements are their favorite thing.
Someone's got to do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And that's amazing. And then also real quick, I've got 2 more questions. One is, what is your favorite type of client and why? Or is there a favorite type that you prefer?
I prefer if clients make decisions. It's difficult when clients don't make decisions and they often ask me, how long is this going to take? Or what's this room going to cost? Or I am like, I don't know, because it just depends on how long the decision-making process is. I can sort you purge, I put it all back together. I can do those, the breads, right? I can't do the middle without them. And sometimes it can be a slow process. Sometimes it's like, get rid of everything in the room. So I think my favorite type of client is really one that is dedicated and focused on making an impact, right? They think that you're just going to be Mary Poppins and spin around 3 times and it's perfect, but I really need them to be part of the process. So I like when a client can be there with me and help make decisions with me, so they feel like they're part of the process.
Agreed. And I think a lot of times when the client is a part of the process, because those are my favorite types too, right? Where you can just have a conversation and turn on some music and it's just a collaborative process. And I think that they always end up feeling the magnitude of how hard you worked for them when they're a part of it, compared to if they leave and go get a manicure and come home and it's done. They don't understand how long that took and how much thought went into it. And it helps them to understand exactly what it is that we do. So then they're more willing to tell their friends. They're more willing to, all of those things. And one other like little tip that I have recently started using that is working amazing is, so, we have our before photos that we take. And I have started taking those at the consultation compared to at the actual session, because I always end up forgetting if I wait till the day of the session, because I'm so excited to get in there and get started. I forget to do the before photo. But what I've learned is if I can take the before photo, and then once we get done, as I'm taking the after photos, I scroll back through and show them the before we got started that day. Then right in front of their face, they can see the after. And that has helped so many of them, because a lot of them are like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it looked like that, or I didn't realize that it was that bad. And then when they're sitting there seeing the before and looking at the after in front of their face, I think it just helps give a bigger impact of how much we got done that day.
Definitely agree with that. I'm going to take that and run. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Last but not least, which is my very favorite question of all, and it's so random. What is one tool that you always carry in your toolbox, no matter what session you're doing or what project you're on?
A piece of candy. I don't tend to eat during sessions, right? So like the time gets away from me and I need a little bit of that like sugar. And then the other tool is just, I have those 3M hooks. Those are really functional to have. You can stick them anywhere and you don't have to nail anything, right? It's easy to use. You can use them for almost anything. So that would be like my actual tool that I use.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's a great answer. And, for me, just yesterday, I was at a session and I was sitting there, sneaking a few M&Ms in between. You don't realize how much energy it takes. And then you get like halfway through a session and you just start losing that energy. But the second you can have just a little quick pick me up or, something to help spark it again, then you can fly through before you know it, the session's over.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. It's been a great conversation. I am going to take the clutter bug quiz from you, if you don't mind, and I'll put it in the show notes for any of you that are interested in using that. And then also everywhere that you can find Kristen. Tell us real quick about the Facebook group, so then that way they know what they're going to join.
Oh yeah. So my Facebook group is public. So I post a lot of funny memes in there, right? That can relate to all of us. Like today I asked, what is holding you back from an organized home, right? It's really interesting to hear what people have to say. Most of the time it's children. I can't help with that, but I can help around that. I post the clutter bug quiz in there every so often, just so I like to see what people are, because it's very interesting, and everyday life. So just positive quotes. And it's a really fun group, and a lot of people can just find a lot of information on there. They can post themselves if they want to. So it's a really great place to collaborate and get some good information.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, go join her group. And then of course the links will be in the show notes, but it's called Level Up Organizing.
Yep, you got it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kristen. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next one. You have been listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to the show notes to find all of the links mentioned in this episode, and hit that subscribe and automatic download button so you don't miss a single thing. Thanks for listening.